Not all boss fights are made equal in LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga. Some are iconic, some are bad, and some are just boring. And the boss we're looking at today is definitely boring. Luckily for us, there is a way to skip this fight completely, which we'll look at a bit later on. But first, we need to understand what makes this boss fight so dull to begin with. This is the Imperial Spy, from Episode 4, Chapter 3, Mos Eisley Spaceport. He serves as the level's ending boss, where he must be beaten in order to board the Millennium Falcon to end the level. Mechanically, this boss fight really isn't a challenge at all. In fact, the spy himself really doesn't do all that much fighting. Instead, he chooses to hide behind a door whilst he calls in stormtroopers for reinforcements. That's the only thing he does, literally just that. Once these stormtroopers have been dealt with, he'll come out from behind a different door where he'll start to shoot you, where you can then damage him. He's only got 4 hearts, so it isn't even like this fight takes a long time, because it doesn't. As for what happens when you finally beat him, well, he just turns into Lego pieces. No cutscene, nothing. Very anticlimactic. Now in gaming, I would argue that most people want their video games to be fun and enjoyable. And if I were to guess, I'd say players would most likely want to skip boring sections of games, which is exactly what we can do with this fight, by being professional gamers. Skipping this fight involves employing speedrunning tactics. Now if you're unfamiliar with speedrunning is essentially trying to complete a level or a game as quickly as possible. Now more often than not, this will involve using glitches to cut out sections of levels completely in order to finish them faster. Now our fight gets triggered when you walk past this entryway in the hangar, so what we're going to do is avoid that completely by simply not walking past that trigger. If we don't walk past the trigger, the fight will not start, but if the fight doesn't start, then how do we end the level? Well, the same way we normally end the level, by boarding the Millennium Falcon. Because if you look closely in the background, you'll notice the boarding ramp is still lowered, and we could theoretically board the Falcon. But how do we do this? By not actually getting anyone near the Falcon? Is that what will stop the fight? Well, we need to utilise Player 2. If we bring in Player 2 and switch Player 2 to R2-D2, we will be able to, using Obi-Wan, use the Force on R2 to push him. Now because the Force has quite decent reach, this is very easy. Once we're close enough to the Millennium Falcon's boarding ramp, we can bring in Player 2 again, and simply maneuver R2 up the ramp to end the level that way, skipping the fight completely. This is actually quite a cool trick you can do yourself. It doesn't require any complicated speedrunning knowledge, doesn't require any precise inputs to do. This is a fairly straightforward trick, and it's just cool. With that said, there you go, that is LEGO Star Wars' most boring boss fight, and how to skip it. The video on screen now is my last video, where we take a look at the top 10 worst characters from LEGO Star Wars through the Clone Wars. So if you're interested, give that a watch. Other than that, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please be sure to like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you all later.